Celestial's newest set, Moonrise, is now out and has made it so a lot of new variant decks and archetypes are now available and viable, including the deck that we'll be taking a look at today, which is Lunar Phase Madness. To start off the deck, we have 3 copies of Voldusk, a 1/5 Lunar Celestial that says when you cast Lunar Phase, you can draw a card or return a Lunar Spirit from your Underworld to your Spirit deck. This effect can only be activated twice per turn. Voldusk is extremely strong due to the number of Lunar Phases that we'll be playing, and it works as the engine of this deck due to the fact that a lot of our Lunar Phases do actively say discard, so this will help negate the fact that a lot of them want to discard cards by drawing them. Not only that, you can utilize it to heal up spirits if you ever get low. Voldusk is extremely strong and you need to have as many of these as frequently as possible in your opening hand. Our next Celestial is 2 copies of Volumbra, a 5/7 2-drop Lunar Celestial that says when you discard a Lunar Phase during your main phase, you can special ascend your Voldusk to this Volumbra from your hand. When you cast Lunar Phase Full Moon, you can special ascend this Volumbra into Volclips from your deck. So you can easily utilize this to go into Volclips in a single turn as long as you have Full Moon set and 1 in hand. So the fact that this is here can be extremely strong. I find this card to be a little lackluster considering how many pieces you have to have for this to function properly. However, it is a pretty good pivot piece for our next Celestial. Our next Celestial is 1 copy of Volclips, a 6/12 3-drop Lunar Celestial that says this Volclips gets +1 attack for each different title among Lunar Phases in your Underworld. You can shuffle 8 Lunar Phases with different titles from your Underworld into your deck in order to return an opponent's field to their hand. With the first part of its ability, Volclips could get all the way up to 14 attack possibly. Getting all 8 Lunar Phases is extremely hard to get into your Underworld. However, if you are capable of doing that, the ability of just returning every single card that your opponent has played out to their hand is extremely strong. Considering the fact that you've already played Full Moon, this Volclips can easily be a 5 or possibly 6 attack 6 Spirit Elestral, swinging in for a bunch of damage after returning all of their stuff to their hand. Volclips is a sneaky rogue card that I would look out for. To ensure that we're consistently finding all of the Lunar Phase pieces that we need, we'll be playing 3 copies of Werepup. Werepup is a 3/2 Lunar Celestial that says when you normal cast this Werepup, you can search your deck for a Lunar Phase and add it to your hand. When you cast Lunar Phase Full Moon, you can special ascend this Werepup to Like a Void from your hand or deck. Now, the fact that we can find any of the Lunar Phases that we desire is extremely strong, let alone the fact that this also ascends with Full Moon, so you can easily grab Full Moon, and if you have a Volumbra on the field, double ascend, which is extremely nuts. Since we're playing Werepup, we'll obviously be playing Like a Void, and we're playing 2 copies of it. Like a Void is a 6/2 Lunar Celestial that says this Like a Void deals piercing damage and is unaffected by counter runes if you cast Lunar Phase Full Moon this turn. So you can utilize Full Moon as a combat trick in order to just flip it and hard ascend over your Werepup into your Like a Void, and also make it unaffected by counter runes for the turn. Like a Void is extremely strong, also in the fact that it does piercing damage, so you can't just sit on a defense position Astro Rabbit and take 0 damage. This is a sneaky card that's already played in decks that aren't running a bunch of Lunar Phases, so of course we're going to be running it in a deck that is packed full of them. And our last Lunar Celestial is 3 copies of Spectaris. Spectaris is a 4/2 1-drop Lunar Celestial that says the Spectaris gets +1 attack for each suppressed Celestial on the field. When the Spectaris enters battle with an Celestial, you can suppress that Celestial until the end phase. Spectaris is extremely strong right now because of a lot of the Celestials utilizing their abilities heavily. So this can easily just act as a 5 attack beater with its ability, or you'd easily just shut down opposing Celestial's ability to beat over them, such as a Galaxy or anything in that nature, possibly like a Terraform for Morphrost, something of that nature. Spectaris is extremely strong, and I feel like it will be ran up as 3-ofs in pretty much almost every deck, let alone a full Lunar deck. Since we're pretty much strictly a Lunar deck, we'll want to utilize the Stadium due to the fact that it will always buff our elestrals. So in order to consistently find it, we'll be playing 3 copies of Jolton. Jolton is a 4/2 Thunder Celestial that says when you normal cast as Jolton, search your deck for a Stadium rune and add it to hand. Jolton is extremely strong in this deck due to the fact that everything is Lunars, so we'll always want to be adding our Stadium to our hand. Since we're playing Jolton, we're obviously playing the Stadium with 2 copies of Temple of the Moon. Like I said, since we're an all-Lunar deck, this will always buff us, and the fact that we do have Full Moon that can utilize as a combat trick with this is extremely strong. To start off our Lunar phases, we have 1 copy of Lunar Phase Full Moon. This is a 1-cost invoke rune that says target an Elestral on the field and suppress it until the end phase. You can expend Lunar equal to the target card's enchantment cost and destroy a discard a Lunar phase if you do destroy it. This can be extremely strong removal, but the fact that you have to pay a lot and plus the fact that you have to discard a Lunar phase means that it's not always going to consistently be there, especially in a top deck mode, so we're only playing 1 copy of it. Next up, we have 2 Lunar Phase Waxing Crescents. A 2-cost counter rune that says target a Lunar Enchanted Elestral and give it +1 attack until the end phase for each Lunar phase in all underworlds. Now, if you remember, I already stated how Full Moon is being played in a lot of decks that aren't Lunar phase decks, so this will always get powered up by their effects also, on top of all of the Lunar phases that you'll be throwing into your discard. So this is an extremely strong card in this deck. Next, we have 1 copy of Lunar Phase First Quarter. I'll be honest, we're pretty much only going to discard this a majority of the time. But if you are desperate enough to play it, this is a 1-cost counter rune that says draw a card. You may discard a Lunar Phase to return a Voldusk, Volumbra, or Volclipse from your underworld to your hand. This is not really that strong considering the fact that it is a counter rune. If it was an invoke rune, this would have a lot more playability, but it is a counter rune, so it kind of has 0 playability due to that factor. Like I said, we're pretty much just playing this in order to discard it. Our next card is 1 copy of Lunar Phase Waxing Gibbous. A 1-cost Lunar counter rune that says target a Lunar Enchanted Elestral and change its position. You may expend 1 Lunar in order and discard a Lunar phase. If you do, the targeted Elestral cannot be destroyed by card effects once this turn. This is extremely strong for allowing your Volclipse to just turn sideways in defense position and not die. But it is kind of niche, and a lot of times you're not really going to have it pay out the way you want, so we are only playing 1 copy of it. Next, we'll be running 2 copies of Lunar Phase Full Moon, a 1-cost counter rune that says enchant up to 2 Lunar Spirits on your field. When this Lunar Phase is discarded by another Lunar Phase, you can foretell 3. Now, this is very unassuming and doesn't really look that powerful, but with the fact that we're playing temples, we can easily give ourselves a +2 to an Elestral, plus we have 2 of our Elestrals that ascend off of playing Full Moon, so we can utilize this as a counter, or as a combat trick in that way also. Next, we have what I think is pretty much the strongest Lunar Phase in this deck right now, with Lunar Phase Waxing Gibbous. It's a 1-cost invoke rune that says shuffle a Lunar Phase Volumbra or Volclipse from your hand or underworld into your deck in order to search your deck for a Voldusk and add it to your hand. Now, since Voldusk is the entire engine of this deck, being able to search it out from anywhere in your deck is very strong and needed for this deck to operate properly. We're also playing 2 copies of Lunar Phase Final Quarter, a 1-cost invoke rune that says search your deck for up to 2 Lunar Phase cards and send them to your underworld. When this Lunar Phase is discarded by another Lunar Phase, you can return 1 Lunar Spirit from your underworld to your spirit deck. So this card can easily be used to shift out the Lunar Phases that we don't want to play, that we're only playing 1 of just because we want to activate Volclipse's effect. And also, if we have a Volclipse on the board, we can utilize this to search for the specific Lunar Phases that we do not have in order to throw them in our graveyard and have our Volclipse utilize its ability. Next, we'll be playing one copy of Lunar Phase Waning Crescent, a 1-cost invoke rune that says return up to 2 lunar spirits from your underworld to your spirit deck. When this lunar phase is discarded by another lunar phase, you can draw a card, then discard a card. This is extremely strong due to the fact that you can utilize this as a small mini ambrosia, and also you can utilize this to just cycle cards. But you only really want to play one copy because you don't need it too much. Now this deck is very tight, so we really don't have room for much else, but we've got 3 copies of Gorgon's Gaze in here, so that way we can shut down anything an opposing Elestral might want to do. We've got 3 copies of Poison Tipped Arrow, so that way we can protect our Elestrals by giving theirs a -2 attack, and also it's hard removal, so it's extremely good. And we're playing 3 copies of Ambrosia to finish off the deck. That's because healing is extremely strong in this game since everything costs your life, so Ambrosia is always a 3 of in every single deck. Because of how tight this deck list, it also makes it so we have a very easy spirit map with 2 copies of Scepter, and we have 18 copies of Alloon. And that's it. What do you guys think of the deck? Is it something you would play? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you have anything you're interested in seeing me build, let me know down there also. And if you enjoy content like this, be sure to like and subscribe as I do put out content like this daily. I hope you all have a good day, and peace.